Hi there, and welcome to Real Life in Real Estate. I'm Mark Peebles, and I am here to help you live your best life and achieve ultimate success. I may have not said recently what I mean by living your best life and achieving ultimate success, but I believe to live your best life, that is a life lived on purpose. What purpose do you wake up with every day that drives you? And it should not be about yourself. It should be about others. So live your best life and achieve ultimate success. That is a life well lived where you reach your defined destination, or you reach that destination so that the next generation can take over and run with that legacy that you're leaving behind. So to live your best life and achieve ultimate success. None of us are getting out of here alive, folks. So ultimate success, I really, truly believe one of the best things that you can do in your life is to define what ultimate success looks like for you and then live towards that end in your life. Okay, so I hit that today. I want to remind you, we are sponsored by Advantage Home Warranty. Check out more at AdvantageHW.com. Best home warranty in the business, Advantage Home Warranty. I carry one of my own home. But let's get into today, second mile service. I want to talk about this concept of second mile service. Now, the first time I ever heard this term actually used outside of someone saying, yeah, I just want to go that extra mile, right? We hear that term, I'm going to go the extra mile. But the first time I ever heard anyone use the term second mile service and define it, it was Dan Cathy with Chick-fil-A. So, Chick-fil-A started by Truett Cathy, such an incredible company. In 6 days every week, their average location outperforms the top next closest fast food restaurant. I think it's McDonald's or something like that. But that said, they are so highly productive in those 6 days. And what makes it very possible for them is the fact that they are so dedicated to second mile service. Now, when I heard Dan Cathy talk about this, he talked about how they wanted to provide this consistently surprising service. So where does this term second mile service come from? Well, it actually comes from the Bible. So Matthew 5:41, Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he says to them that if someone asks you to go with them 1 mile, I tell you, you go with them 2 miles. So in that day, if a Roman soldier came to a Jew and said, hey, carry my rucksack, by military law, that Jew had to pick up their backpack and walk with them for 1 mile. What Jesus came in and said and changed the paradigm is to take it with them too. Now, wait a minute. When I go the second mile, I'm not expected to carry it for that second mile. So I'm providing service to them. I'm serving them in such a way that is unexpected, or as Chick-fil-A talks about, surprising to them, right? So you're consistently surprising people with your service. So think about that first mile. That's what you're expected to do. That is what is required of you. And in real estate, as we provide second mile service, there is the things that are expected of us. We are expected to show houses. We're expected to advise our clients. We're expected to help our clients get to a closing table, right? We're expected to help them with who they should call for inspections. We're expected to coordinate between the lender and the title company. We're expected to do all of these things, but what happens in the second mile where they are surprised by the unexpected service that we're providing for them? Well, look at Chick-fil-A. When you walk into a Chick-fil-A, you get this warm welcome. You get grateful goodbyes. They're always so nice, always so kind. In fact, in all of my experiences in a Chick-fil-A, I don't know that I've ever had bad service. I don't know that I've ever had a situation where I was disappointed in my service or they made me feel like I wasn't important. That's one of the things that I've always noticed is I feel important when I walk into a Chick-fil-A, and even when I walk out of a Chick-fil-A, or when I go through the drive-through line. They're always so nice. Now, I can say plenty of times that I've been in other restaurants or other places, and I have not received that kind of service. And so how are you as an agent treating your clients, right? Are they the most important thing, the most important people in the world to you? And that might be at the moment. You know, if you're a busy agent, you might be working with a lot of clients right now, or you might be in a busy season of life right now. But when you're talking to that one client, do they feel like they're really important to you? Are you welcoming to them? Are you answering their call with a smile on your face? Sometimes even when you know it's going to be a difficult call. And I'll tell you this, I have clients right now. They bought their house a year ago. They've experienced a job loss. And in experiencing that job loss, because in this one particular market in our area, we've actually seen a decline in the market by 0.9% over the last year. We've been seeing big increases in the market, but they happen to fall into this market that has slowed down a little bit over the last year. And so therefore, it's going to be difficult to be able to sell their home for more than they paid for it. But the thing is am I, in terms of the way that I treat them, am I encouraging them? Am I smiling when I answer the phone with them? Hi, how are you guys? And then I work into the difficult conversation, but then I wrap it up with more encouragement that, hey, listen, this is going to happen. I know this is a difficult situation, but I'm working hard to make this happen for you, right? So I want my clients, and you want your clients to feel that sense of care. And that's really, I think, the key to it is that sense of care. Another thing that Chick-fil-A does is it's table touches. So they want to walk around and check on every single table as if you're fine dining. Now, I've been in lots of McDonald's in my life. I've been in, lots of Wendy's in my life and Burger King's. I've never had anyone come to my table and say, hey, how is everything? Can I get you a drink refill? Because they just don't do that. But Chick-fil-A offers that extra service. And in our business, I think one of the things that we could do is just be regularly checking in on people outside of the transaction. You've closed on the house. And what happens a lot of the time in our business is closing happens, agent gets their paycheck, buyer never hears from that person again. That's why in our business, 5 years after a homeowner has purchased their home, they can't even remember the name of their agent. I hate that statistic, but that's the reality of our business. What if, the day that they got into the house, you're reaching out to them and you say, hey, I want to make sure you got into the house okay. Did everything look right when you got in? I do this with all of my clients. Whenever they close, I know the time that they're getting in, even if occupancy might be a week after closing, which I know that doesn't happen in every market, every market across the United States, but it does happen here in our market every once in a while. So I'll make sure that I help coordinate getting them in. Then I touch base with them after that closing and I say, hey, how did everything go getting into the house? Was everything as you expected? Now, one of the things that I've been known to do over the years, and I think I heard this years ago on another podcast. I heard a guy talking about it. I thought, you know what? I should do that. If they get in and there's a leak in the dishwasher, which inevitably there's always something going on, or they got a leak under a sink, or there was a surprise. The seller left a bunch of junk in the garage that they were expecting to be cleaned out. Well, I'll send my crew over to go and take care of it. I'll call one of my handymen to fix that leak, or I'll send my son over with his truck and pay him $100 to run that stuff to the dump. But that's because I know how much stress those clients have in making that move. I want to help ease that for them. Oh, and I never say, hey, Tommy, after you take that stuff away, tell them, that it's $100. No, I just take care of it. If it's a major thing and we're talking thousands of dollars, hopefully they have an Advantage home warranty that covers it, right? And I help them get in touch with their home warranty, or I help get the right contractors out. Now, I've rarely ever in my career had something like that, but I do everything I can to stand beside them and let them know that I'm there to help. And I encourage you guys to do the same when it comes to providing second mile service. Check in on your clients 2 years from now. Check in on your clients. Hey, I was just thinking about you guys the other day. I was in your neighborhood showing another house, and I thought, I really enjoyed working with John and Maria. How are you guys doing? Just check in with them. Maintain that relationship. That provides second mile service. Another thing that Chick-fil-A, or a couple of things that they do, is they'll carry food to your table. You don't have to wait at the counter. I was in a McDonald's, and honestly, I don't go to McDonald's very often, and I have nothing against McDonald's, right? Siri's talking to me on my watch. She thinks that I was including her in the conversation, and I wasn't. But hey, listen, I don't spend a ton of time in McDonald's, and again, I don't have anything against McDonald's. However, I went to a McDonald's recently. The place was packed. The kitchen was chaotic, and there were several of us that did you have to order at the kiosks. There were several people that had ordered at the kiosks, and we were all standing there staring at each other. And so it was awkward. It was odd. Whereas Chick-fil-A, their second mile service in the industry is they want to bring that tray to your table, set it down, check on your drinks. I mean, they are doing things right. So they'll carry the food to the table. They'll bring you umbrellas in the rain. I got a great story about this. Well, as agents, I really believe that our job is to serve our clients well. And I had a client recently. It was a husband, wife, and they had their little baby there, and they were looking at an investment property, and it unleashed a furious storm. Now, I carry a big golf umbrella in my car. So I pulled out my golf umbrella, and I'm standing there holding it. I always prioritize wife and kids first, right? So I've got it over his wife and kids. I don't have an umbrella, so I'm standing there getting wet. She says, you know what? I'm going to get back in the car. Thank goodness she got back in the car, because then me and the husband were huddled under the umbrella together talking about this property, right? The reality was, though, is that even if I had not had access to using my own umbrella and I just handed it to them and I let them use it, I would have gladly done that to make them comfortable and feel like they were being well served in the process. And so Chick-fil-A does it. That's a way that you can do it in this industry. Listen, it's not the big things that matter, right? Like, I can't think of a time when I've ever had to complain. I think one time, okay, here's one. We did a catering event for a nonprofit in the area. We paid for the food. Chick-fil-A delivered the food and forgot the sauces. Now, I don't know about you, but you cannot eat Chick-fil-A without Chick-fil-A sauce. But guess what? They went all the way back to the store, came all the way back and delivered Chick-fil-A sauce for us. Whereas other restaurants may have been like, or DoorDash may have been like, sorry, they forgot it, right? You're on your own. So Chick-fil-A does that. When they make a major mistake, they're going to make it right. And there's going to be times that we're going to have major mistakes. But I believe a lot of providing second mile service happens in the little things that you do. So here's the other thing about second mile service. I talked about the biblical perspective on it. I want you to think from the Jewish person and that Roman soldier's perspective. So you're at the end of the first mile. That Roman soldier who probably didn't give a rip, probably didn't even talk to that person very much as they were carrying that rucksack, says, okay, you're done. You can put it down, right? But then the Jewish person says, you know what? I'm gonna carry it for you for another mile. And they're like, well, why would you do that? Well, because I want to serve you. And honestly, I'd like to get to know you. So tell me about your family, right? Like all of a sudden, what happens in that second mile is the most important thing in our business. It's technology. No, I'm kidding. That's the dumbest thing ever, right? Everyone's so focused on technology. That second mile has nothing to do with technology. It has to do with the most important thing, relationship. You are building relationships. So that second mile, that extra 20 minutes, I don't know if they're walking a really slow mile, which I got to imagine they're just kind of strolling along at that point. They're not on a mission marching really fast. But think about that. There's so much relationally that happens there that I would guess that Roman soldier felt really cared for, and it started to stir something inside of him. And then he's like, at the end, well, thanks for doing that. You didn't have to do that, but thank you, right? So that's what I'm encouraging you to do today is create those moments where you have done what's expected of you, but you have clients that are going, wow, thank you for doing that. I'll close with this story. I've used this many times over the years. I had a guy named John on my team years ago, and John is actually, he was born and raised in a Chinese family, spoke Cantonese, and married to a wife who's also of Chinese descent, and she actually speaks Mandarin, and they worked with a lot of clients moving in from China and working in a big Chinese glass manufacturer here in our market in Dayton. John had one of those clients coming in. He helped them make the purchase, but the client wasn't actually here for the closing. So John goes, and after the seller has moved out of the house, right before his client is going to be taking occupancy, John goes and does a walkthrough and realizes that when that seller moved out, they left holes everywhere in that place. They had taken all of their pictures down. They took all the screws out of the wall, and the place looked a mess. So John didn't even tell his client about it. But before his client got here to take occupancy, John went in, he filled every single one of the holes, sanded them all down, got the touch-up paint, and went around and touched up every bad spot on the wall. Now, his client showed up, and his client got to move into a beautiful, looked like well-maintained, well-kept condominium that he would have never known the difference. Had it not been for their agent that cared so much that said, you know what, I can't let my client move into this. I'm going to make it right myself. And so I've always commended John. The funny thing is, recently I was teaching a class, and his wife, who's now an agent, was in the class. And I just told her, I'm always so proud of your husband for his heart to do that. I think that's all of us as agents. We care about people. We want what's best for our clients. And I realize even with my busy schedule, it would be hard for me to go and fill and spackle sand and paint. That would be difficult for me. But you know what? I know lots of people that can. And if I really care, sometimes it might cost me a couple $100. But it's worth it to send someone over to provide a higher level of service for that client. And ultimately, there's this philosophy that when you give, it always comes back to you, right? I talk about open-handed philosophy. I've talked about this on the show before. When we live with an open-handed philosophy, it's amazing how our hands are already open when we give it away so that when it comes back, we can actually receive it. And so if you're generous with people like that, you'll always have more. And so I believe when you provide second mile service, when you're generous with your time, when you're generous, sometimes even with your finances with a client, when you are just a generous person seeking to provide second mile service, they're going to be like, you'll never believe what our agent did for us. And then you start getting the referrals and referrals and referrals. And pretty soon you're running a business that is all people telling other people about the great second mile service that they received from you. So that's my challenge for you. What can you do in your business to provide second mile service? And are you looking for those opportunities to be able to provide that high level, that next mile of service? So that's what I have for you today. Thanks for joining me on Real Life in Real Estate. Remember, with Real Life in Real Estate, you can find us on YouTube. Hopefully you're watching on YouTube. If you are, would you like this video? Would you subscribe to our channel? This really helps us to grow our channel. And so we ask you to help us do that. And then also, wherever you get your podcast, follow the podcast so that it pops up every week. It'll automatically be there for you to listen to on Monday with Monday Mindsets, and then on Fridays with Real Life in Real Estate. And then go ahead and write a review for us. That really helps when you write reviews on podcasts because it just changes the algorithm. So I would appreciate that. That would be a little way that you could maybe even serve me so that I can keep, hopefully, serving you with great content every week to help you live your best life and achieve ultimate success. I'll see you next week.